Bad news for the Los Angeles Chargers. Quarterback Justin Herbert officially out for the rest of the season. More shakeups to come potentially with the Los Angeles Chargers. And we had a doubleheader of Monday Night Football upsets, playoff picture, all that and more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love all the everydayers out there subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, bad news for the Chargers, and it's a tough season that continues to get tougher for the Chargers and Charger fans out there. I feel for them. And now star quarterback Justin Herbert, breaking news now as we hit record, out for the season following surgery to repair a broken index finger on his throwing hand. And Easton Stick now stepping in for the rest of the season as the starting quarterback. Coach Brandon Staley yesterday said they're going to do what's best for their quarterback, and that is that he's going to get surgery on his throwing finger, and it's all about 2024 now for those Chargers. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised that Brandon Staley still has a job, Matt, as we wake up here on Tuesday. And I went to look for that news about Brandon Staley, and instead I saw news about Justin Herbert. Tough ship. It's a sinking ship right now with the Chargers, and they weren't going to go anywhere the rest of this year. So it's not about 2023 right now. It's all about 2024.
Yeah, it's very much a sinking ship. It's been hit by torpedo after torpedo. I wonder, is the bloom off the rose with Kellen Moore too? You know, like, is he not even getting any consideration for, staying there for the head job, which I wouldn't think he would, or even a head job or anything going forward, or
even it was the most obvious interim head coach situation as well. Right.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't even think he's interim worthy at this point. Is that what it is? Is it more difficult to go the interim route because you can't really evaluate because now Herbert's out too? So what do you
exactly right. What do you really get?
I guess if the offense takes off and the team takes off with Easton Stick, there's an indicator that it was the head coach that was in the way of things. And if the defense gets better after Brandon Staley potentially is fired, we've talked a lot about Brandon Staley. I know there's a lot of Chargers fans that listen to this podcast, and they're probably just as baffled as we are that he hasn't been fired yet. I don't like calling for people's jobs, right? He's a human being. He's got a family, and but like, this is one of those that is the most obvious where the writing's on the wall. And I don't see how we sit here Tuesday and Brandon Staley hasn't already been fired. Maybe it's just because of this injury has halted things and there's more to do this week now because of that. And so it changes the equation. It changes the evaluation process of a potential interim coach. But clearly he's not going to be the coach next year. And at this point, it's what are you even doing? What are you even doing the rest of the year in Los Angeles if you're the Chargers is my question. Like, what can you even do?
And that's why I think he shut down Herbert. I'm sure that comes from ownership.
Mm-hmm.
I would think front office and coach want to win every game they possibly can, maybe finish the game on a 2-game winning streak with Herbert throwing for 350 each time. But why? What's that get you? Why rush this guy back with a throwing finger? Imagine throwing a football with your middle finger on your throwing hand broke or, healing. Why push it? He's had a lot of injuries. So I hesitate to go down this road because I don't believe it to be true. But is Herbert part of the problem? I'll take, if we're drafting quarterbacks from here on out, he's like my third or fourth pick. I adore him.
Hold on. I think our guy Dave in Miami, the Dolphins fan, the Tua fan, Matt, are you gonna admit that Tua's better than Justin Herbert? Is that where we're going with this right now?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not even a little. I mean, and Tua's maybe having the better year. I mean, now listen to that, but that's an off-season conversation, Dave. I don't think Herbert's the problem, but I mean, is he a great leader? Is that the guy in the fourth quarter that can pull a bad team in a bad situation? Is he worth the money? And can he stay on the field? I think the answer to all those things is yes, but I think it's a little nearsighted. I always mention, Pittsburgh. Let's just fire the offensive coordinator. Kenny Pickett did nothing wrong. Kenny Pickett was terrible. Like it's a group effort when things go wrong, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, man. And usually it's a top-down thing, and that's not something that's going to get fixed now. And it's very unlikely that Kellen Moore would get the interim job anyway and prove so much that he's the head coach next year either. So
get everybody out of here. Yeah.
Right.
Not Herbert, obviously.
So maybe that's why they didn't want to fire Brandon Staley right now. But I'm looking at the defense too, and I just think you need to shake something up and show everybody in the building that it's unacceptable what's going on right now. Losing to the Broncos 24-7. We don't really talk about this game much yesterday when we were recapping what happened Sunday. The Broncos now in this thing at 7-6. You're the Chargers, and the Broncos, as terrible as they look to start the season, are ahead of you in the standings. You're the 5-8 Chargers right now, and falling short year after year, and then just completely crashing this year. It's completely unacceptable. So that's sort of some of the messages I think you have to start sending if you're ownership too.
So I wanted to look at this real quick. So next year's salary cap. Listen to some of these numbers with this team. Trey Pipkins counts 8.7. Eric Kendricks counts 9.2. Sebastian Joseph Day, 10. Corey Linsley, 14. Herbert, only 19. Great. Derwin, 19. Mike Williams, 32. Keenan Allen, 34. Joey Bosa, 36. Khalil Mack, $38.5 million cap hit. Like, there's some good players on there, but are you getting almost $20 million of cap, money out of Derwin James nowadays, or $73 million out of your edge rushers? You know what I mean? Or $68 million between your two receivers that are up in age? Like,
right.
They're a disaster.
It's a disaster. And all those free agent signings that was like, the offensive line's the problem, so we're going to spend a first-round pick and sign a guy. And it's like, well, the offensive line isn't great still. The defensive line, so Sebastian Day, we're going to, throw money over here, and, Khalil Mack and bring him in. And it's like,
Jason Jackson, they traded him away just to take him up. Right.
Nothing has worked. It's been pretty unbelievable. And now you have this bloated contracts. They might, it's hard to imagine them being better on defense next year when you have to make some hard decisions. Joey Bosa's got a roster bonus like in March. I don't think he's going to be around for that roster bonus to happen.
Matt's probably their best defensive player right now, but he's $38 million cap hit.
And he's talking about retirement. So I don't know if he'll be there either. So you lose Bosa and Mack. You got to figure out some other ways to cut some costs. And so it's going to be a tough job, Herbert aside, for the next guy that comes in. And who knows, maybe it's even Mike Williams has to go. And maybe and he's got a relatively new contract. I don't even know if they save money releasing him yet this next season.
It's brutal.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it's Marvin Harrison Jr. to pair with Justin Herbert next year. I mean, at this point, with the way the season's going and the losses piling up, and I don't see a whole lot of wins coming with Easton Stick, maybe they're going to be in a position to go back into the first round for a wide receiver. Quentin Johnson.
That's why they drafted Johnson.
Right, and he doesn't look like at all right now,
No.
especially when you consider some of the wide receivers that went right after him looking a lot better. By the way, he almost had 100 yards receiving, 3 catches for 91, leading receiver in that game. So maybe he will come on here at the end of the season. But yeah, a whole lot of questions for the Chargers, and I still wake up every day thinking, man, Brandon Staley's probably going to get fired. Now, I'm not one to call for people's jobs, and it's just one of the most obvious in the league, and it has been for a while.
And I hate to say this, Chargers fans, I know there's a lot of you out there, but frankly, in my lifetime, they've had Dan Fouts, who's in the Hall of Fame, Phillip Rivers, who I believe is a Hall of Famer but might not get in. Herbert, to me, is a top 5 quarterback. I shouldn't even brought his name up to blame. Drew Brees, who they made the wrong decision on. And I frankly think it's not a good organization. I think the problem is ownership, front office, coach, not the players.
Which brings up the question, can they get it right when they do it all again in 2024? So we'll see. Very interesting offseason ahead for
Not Belichick.
That's what I was saying. Belichick with a star quarterback. Like, it's the most obvious. Right. And I would think that would be a pretty attractive job for a lot of coaches. Does Belichick's been an East Coast guy? Does he want to come over to the West Coast and LA and live that lifestyle? Go Hollywood on us, Bill Belichick? That part of it doesn't feel like it fits. But if you're a coach and you can do what he can do with the defensive side of the ball, and you get a star quarterback, top 5 quarterback, that's tempting.
Lightning bolt hoodie. I just don't see it, but who knows?
I don't see him in anything other than something blue. It is blue, though. It is blue.
How about that powder blue hoodie? I can't see him in that. Yeah.
All right, we got to move on here. There's a couple of upsets on Monday Night Football, and take a peek at that playoff picture now. That is very interesting after 14 weeks of the NFL season next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all of your NFL games, sporting events, concerts, comedy, music, theater events, whatever it is you need tickets for, you can find killer last-minute deals with Game Time. All-in prices, views from your seat, and the Game Time best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Love that you can get last-minute tickets, even up to an hour after an event starts. Flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for any kind of event in your area. You can see the view from your seat, no hidden fees with Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, you get those tickets. You're at the event, and once you get to the gates, you don't have to fish through your email. It's just right there in the Game Time app for you with your tickets, and you're getting in, and you are having a lot of fun at whatever event it is. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. All right, a couple of Monday nighters. It was weird having a doubleheader with 2 games on at the same time. Wasn't even really weird. Staggered starts. and there were a couple of games that you thought might have been a lot better than they looked to start, and then they turned out to be actually better games and really good games. And a couple of upsets here with the Tennessee Titans defeating the Dolphins 28-27, and the New York Giants over the Green Bay Packers 24-22. I want to start with the Giants. The Giants are winning games right now.
Yeah, what's going on here with DeVito?
Tommy Devito style. And the Packers were one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and now there's only one game that separates them. The 6-7 Packers fall back below 500, and the 5-8 New York Giants are not in the playoff picture, but and really kind of messing up their plans for the draft right now with winning these games.
Absolutely. I mean, 9 out of 10 times, I think winning is the best thing for the organization. Build a culture, those type of things. So good for them. And DeVito's another one of these dudes now that I think will be in the league for 10 years and retire a very rich man. And I don't know if there'll be will there be a DeVito Daniel Jones conversation this offseason? I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth. But
considering contract, I would take DeVito 100 times out of 100 versus Daniel Jones
because he's free. Yeah,
right. Yeah, and there's probably going to be another quarterback in the mix potentially with the Giants there. But again, they're creeping further away from the top of the draft, so that could get interesting there as well. When it comes to that conversation, do you remember when Tommy DeVito got his first start, and we were like, "Man, this is really cool," local New Jersey kid, and he gets to tell his grandparents, "Man, I started a game. I played the New York Giants," and
remind me like Rocky Balboa getting a shot.
Right. Now he's tell his grandkids 10 years in the NFL as a backup and carried a clipboard and started some games and won some games. Local hero status now for Tommy DeVito. He's not just going to be a footnote. People are going to remember him. So,
he's never going to buy a beer in his life in Jersey or New York.
And winning games. And they're a better football team than when Daniel Jones was quarterbacking them earlier on in the year. So interesting team right now with the New York Giants and kind of winning too many games at this point. And maybe DeVito and I'm not going to say it's everything's quarterback centric. It's not like DeVito's the reason that they're doing everything they're doing right now. But we were talking about fired head coaches earlier in this podcast. I think Brian Daboll's job is much safer right now than it looked a month ago.
Yeah, yeah, I think he is safe. And there was, I think it got warm. I don't think it ever got hot, but I do think it's safe. They were the better team last night. I mean, Green Bay turned the ball over too much. I mean, just looking at yards per play, it's 6-7 versus 4-9. The Giants ran the ball quite well. I mean, you put Dexter Lawrence, and I'm getting really fond of Thibodeau too. So they have some building block pieces on both sides of the ball that we'll see at the receiver position and things like that. But you got to be pretty upset if you're Green Bay. I mean, you're trending the right way, and then all of a sudden it's like, we really stubbed our toe here.
Yeah, this is a tough one because you got to have the games, the winnable games, if you're going to be a playoff team. And then Love was just his stock was skyrocketing. Not a great game for him. And so, in that roller coaster ride that's been Jordan Love this season, coming back on the down slope, he's got a rebound from this one. But it's going to be tough in the NFC. But there's just so many other 6 and 7 teams that they're still in the thick of this thing. And I guess you can't count out can we count completely out the Giants and the Bears are only one game behind all these other teams at 6 and 7? I would imagine that some of those teams are going to win more games and it's going to make it impossible to climb out of that hole. But heck, the Giants, if they could win out,
a few together, yeah.
You still got to play the Eagles twice in the last 4 weeks, though. The Giants, So
I think the Bears in a different light than I do the Giants. Like I think the Bears are a noticeably better team than the Giants, but the Giants are doing good stuff. You would
have neutrals field. You would have the Bears favored quite a bit
over the Giants. Yeah, by 6. With all respect to DeVito, I'd rather play against him than Justin Fields.
Yeah. It was put perfectly this weekend. I don't remember who said it, but it was basically like Justin Fields makes 2 people's jobs difficult on every Sunday, and it's his own offensive coordinator and the opposing defensive coordinator.
Yes, absolutely. And he's going to make the front office's job pretty hard after the season too. What do you do with them? Or some other front offices. Interesting. But big step backwards for the Packers here.
Yeah.
And losing a conference game.
Yeah, conference game. Jordan Love's talking about stock, Jordan Love. So some interesting happenings here to end the season with the Packers and the Giants, and they probably will both be on the outside looking in. The Titans for sure going to be on the outside looking in the AFC playoff picture.
I didn't see this coming.
But they just beat the Dolphins, and the Dolphins, Matt, still haven't beaten anyone good, and now they lost to someone bad in this one. This is even worse than the Packers lost to the Giants. The 9-3 Dolphins now losing 28-27 to the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis, bad pick 6 interception to a defensive lineman, and still is able to win this football game. Throws for 327 yards and a touchdown aside from that pick 6. And man, he took a shot too from was it Seiler, the defensive lineman that had the pick 6, and then Will Levis tries to stop him from getting the end zone and gets absolutely crushed. Like what a terrible 5 seconds that was for Will Levis, but he comes out with the W in this one.
Yeah, and Levis played hard. I think he took a step forward. I mean, the last couple of weeks haven't been great for him. I'm not willing to say he's the franchise quarterback, but I think he's not bought himself more time. I think he's going to be the guy next year anyway. But this was a promising step in the right direction. We know development isn't linear. Just a couple steps forward, 5 steps back. I think you can brush this off if you're Miami to injuries. I mean, like everybody was falling left and right on this team. I mean, it started with Tyreek Hill. They lost their center. They had to reshuffle things. They couldn't block Harold Landry. But I also think that's a little unfair. I mean, you're the superior team. And you kind of stole my thunder. I mean, beat a good team. I mean, where's the signature win? Is this team, are they equipped to go to Baltimore in the postseason and win in the cold weather or, things like that? I mean, go to Kansas City. Are they a good team? Absolutely. But I don't think they're a tier 1 team, even in the AFC. Like, I think the Bills are better than they are. I think Baltimore's better than they are. I'm not sure about Kansas City.
It's just a big hole in their resume right now.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's so when you put and I'm not going to say they couldn't beat anybody, but I'm not going to say that they can beat everybody either. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the question I have with the Dolphins. So we'll see. Yeah, bad luck there at home too. The Packers were at least on the road. The Dolphins 2 touchdown favorites in this game at home. This is one of the ugliest wins we've seen or ugliest losses I think we've seen all season. So yeah,
I think it's the biggest point spread where the loser won, or won. The
Where the underdog won straight up.
Yeah, I'm almost sure
covered, but won the game. Yeah.
So it's considered the worst loss in the league or whatever.
And then Tyreek Hill on top of it, right? Like that,
right.
We're talking about MVP status potentially for Tyreek Hill, and that was an odd one because it looked really bad, and he jogs off the field, and the crowd goes crazy and cheers for him. But then he didn't get his ankle wrapped up, didn't go in the tent. He was just kind of stand there without a helmet. That was an odd situation.
It was. I mean, it was almost like he was trying to will himself to health. You know, like I thought he got hurt bad, and he's just like, I didn't get hurt. Mine never mattered. You know, but then he run around pretty well after that. But he was in and out of lineup a lot. You know, I mean, something was bothering him. And hope it's not long term.
Yeah,
I hope it doesn't come out today. You know, like he needs surgery and tough through it or something.
Right.
That'd be horrible.
And yeah, so probably might be in the MRI machine as we speak. In fact, so we'll see what happens there with Tyreek Hill. But that's an X factor that the Dolphins cannot afford to lose.
Not at all. Not at all.
All right, next let's talk playoff picture. AFC, NFC. How's this thing look after 14 weeks? Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Jace Medical and the Jace Case. And I know you come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities of life, but can we just talk for a minute about preparing for real life? And according to the FDA, pharmacies are running a little bit low on some antibiotics like amoxicillin. And right now it's looking like a pretty bad flu season as well. So you got to be prepared for yourself and your family, especially with the specific needs that you and your family might have, you know, potential, whatever, natural disasters or supply chain issues that could keep you from some life-saving medications. We've seen pandemics. Maybe you're just traveling and you're in an area where you might not be able to get some emergency medication that you or your family needs. So the Jace Case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, UTIs, respiratory infections, skin infections, among many other things. And visit Jace Medical to get your Jace Case and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed and delivered by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never more important than now to be prepared. So go to jacemedical.com and use offer code locked on to get $20 off your order. Again, that is Jace Medical, JASE.com. Promo code locked on for $20 off your order. Who's winning the Super Bowl, Matt? It's according to the percentages here, it's looking like a Baltimore Ravens, San Francisco 49ers best odds to play in the Super Bowl, and we're going to get that very matchup on Christmas. So that'll be a fun one. Maybe even a Super Bowl preview. I think we know in the NFC four of the teams that are going to be in there, and it's going to be the Niners, going to be the Eagles, going to be the Cowboys, and it's going to be the Lions. And depending on how things go with the seeding, Niners control their destiny. The Eagles, even though they're at the 5 seed right now in the AFC, they do control their own destiny. Play the Giants twice in the division. And so their division record and their conference record will be better than the Cowboys if both those teams do win out. And so the Eagles would then jump back to the 2 seed and would would also win the division. The Cowboys would be back to the 5 seed. So the Niners and the Eagles control their own destiny for the 1 and 2 seeds, but we know how that goes, and you still got to win those games. And so we'll see how that happens. But after that, man, I mean, we're talking about the Packers now. 47% chance to make the playoffs. The Vikings have the next best, actually, after those 4 teams I mentioned, to make the playoffs. 66% according to ESPN. And you know, just being over 500 right now in the NFC is a chore. It seems like you got all these 6 and 7 teams of the. You got the Saints and the Falcons and the Bucks. Obviously, one of those teams is going to go, and probably the others aren't. Whoever wins that division, you got the Packers, the Rams, and the Seahawks, all at 6 and 7 right now. It's hard to make sense of the rest of the group after that top 4 in the NFC, man.
Yeah, it is. And just sticking with the NFC, obviously, one of the South teams is going to win the division. Nobody else from that division is going to get in there, and then they're going to have to host the Cowboys or Eagles, and that's going to be probably ugly. So there's 3 major contenders, in my opinion. I think your Niners are the best of the group. As it stands right now, the wild cards go Eagles, Vikings, Packers. But I frankly think the team that's playing the best of the non-top 3 is probably the Rams. Just as a fan, I want the Rams to get in. Right now, they're the 8 seed, so they need some stuff to happen. Packers losing last night doesn't help, but the Rams lost as well. They're 6-7. I still think Seattle could maybe win a playoff game or, make some noise, and they're the 9 seed. And that's really it to me. I think there's 9 teams in the hunt, in the NFC. The Vikings are the 6th seed, but I'm not very impressed with them. They don't seem to have a quarterback. Jefferson's out. I can see them falling off.
I've heard it put that some people think that it'd be much better, and it's hard to argue. It'd be much better to be that road team that plays against the winner of the NFC South than put in the side of the bracket that's going to face the rest of the teams in the NFC, which is interesting.
I hadn't thought of that angle, but it's not a very brutal first match. If you first matchup, if you could basically be assured to get to the second round as a wild card team, that's not so bad. You just, you have no chance of hosting the NFC Championship, things like that. It's,
right.
Where it hurts.
And
the AFC's a disaster.
Yeah, you were talking about being assured. We just saw Monday Night Football. Nothing's assured in the NFL. This is going to be bonkers, I'm sure, the rest of the way. And we're going to start talking about mutual opponents and going 3-4 deep on the tiebreakers here in both the NFC and the AFC. But the Baltimore Ravens right now, especially after that Dolphins loss, looking pretty. 1 seed currently going into Week 15 in the AFC. They're going to be a playoff team, second highest odds in the NFL to make the Super Bowl. And then it's the Chiefs, followed by the Dolphins still, then the Jaguars next most likely. Then you've got Browns, you've got Texans, you've got Bills, you've got Colts, you've got now the Broncos and the Steelers, and all these teams are above 500. All these teams would be waltzing into the playoffs in the NFC, man.
So there's 6 teams in the AFC that are 7-6, and that's nuts to me. Let's start at the top real quick with the AFC. Do you agree with me, even with the Dolphins' loss last night, that I would feel very strong putting a chip down that Baltimore, Miami, Kansas City, and Jacksonville will win their division? I don't know what order those top 4 will end up, but I think the division winners are going to remain the same.
Yes, so the Bills are only 2 games behind the Dolphins now.
9-4 versus 7-6.
Yeah, that's.
The Bills are terrible with tiebreakers too.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
Why they're the 11 seed right
now. So
now.
they would need the tiebreaker too. So that makes it even more difficult. But
I was thinking that too. Like Buffalo, I think is better than Miami, but I don't know if they can get over them.
If Tyreek's significantly hurt,
yeah,
it's not impossible. You can make up 2 games pretty quick, but a tie is still a win for the Dolphins. It's. And
I just know the Bills tiebreakers across the board are horrible. But
by the way, Bills the Dolphins regular season finale as well. So
maybe it's for the division. That's the one I could see. I don't think anybody catches Baltimore. Denver's not going to catch the Chiefs. The Stroud injury and stuff. I don't think they're going to get to Jacksonville. So I do think those 4 are going to win their divisions.
Very likely, yes.
And then the Browns are in wonderful shape. Just because they have 1 game over all those 7-6 teams, I almost feel like they're in. They have an NFL quarterback right now. The defense is playing great.
How many teams can you even say that about?
I know.
They have an NFL quarterback, Joe Flacco. Maybe he's got one more Super Bowl run in him. We'll see. It's an interesting team, but they can win games with near 0 at quarterback. They've had some bad quarterback games where they're still winning because of that defense too. So the Browns are an interesting team, and they're in a great spot. They've got twice as good a chance to make the playoffs as the rest of the teams we talked about that are 7-6.
So I can't help myself. The Steelers right now are the 6th seed, which is kind of laughable, to be honest with you, that they would get in over the Bills or the Texans. Teams that most people would much rather see than the Steelers. But it's amazing to me that if they could only have beat the damn Cardinals or Patriots the last 2 weeks, the 2 worst teams in the league, they would be right there with the Browns, basically moonwalking into the playoffs at 8-5.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And you almost don't deserve to get in.
Right. You lose those 2 games in a 5-day stretch. It's the first time in NFL history teams lost back-to-back games to teams that were 8 games or worse under 500.
The Bills
don't deserve to get in.
The Bills are going to make the playoffs, Matt. They're going to do it. They're going to win enough games the rest of the way, and I
hope so. But they're the 11 seed right now. They have to go over everybody. All the tiebreakers destroy the Bills, but they're the best. They might be the best team in the conference.
I trust them to do what's needed the last 4 weeks versus Colts, even the Broncos who are playing hot. Texans next year are going to be a problem. But
even the Bengals without Burrow,
right? I just don't think they have enough juice, and of course the Steelers we just mentioned. So it would be it's still, even though the Bills only have a 45% chance of making the playoffs. I think I put a chip down on them.
That's another one. You talk about, I just talked about my Steeler regrets. If the Bills would have got one more win this year, I mean, at the Jets to start the season, at New England midseason, at Cincinnati, Denver, some of these games, they would be sitting pretty. But now they need a lot of things to go their way, unfortunately. They're tied. All their losses are in the conference.
Could the Bills and Dolphins play twice in a row? This regular season finale and then be 2 and 7 seed and then play again in the first round of the playoffs?
That'd be fun. Yeah. And Bills might be favored in both those games.
And they would just hang out for a couple of weeks in Miami.
Mm-hmm. So I do think the Bills probably need to run the table, and they host the Cowboys, but then at the Chargers, no Herbert. New England, I know they lost to them already. And then at Miami might be for the division or certainly for a playoff spot. And they have to beat Dallas, though.
That Cowboys-Bills game might be one of the biggest games for playoff implications the rest of the season, surely that week, because if Dallas loses that game, that leaves it wide open for the Eagles to go. I mean, that's a 2 to 5 seed swap there for Dallas if the Eagles go and end up winning that division and get the 2 seed over the 5 seed. And then obviously if the Bills lose, that might knock them out of the playoffs completely.
Yeah. I mean, there's some good games this week, like Ravens, Jags, but I think both those teams get in. It's not super exciting for most people out there, but like Steelers go to Indy. If you lose that conference game, you're probably out if you're either one of those teams.
Right. Like the teams that are right there. That goes from your 46% chance to make it to now you're over 50% chance to make the playoffs, or you're down to 25.
Or you're like out. Yeah. Like that one might be a loser leaves town match.
All right. And of course, we'll make the picks for those games in week 15 coming up on Peacock and Williamson. Tomorrow, we've got a little mailbag episode, which you can get involved with. Drop us a question at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL on Twitter, or drop a question in the YouTube comments. Matt and I back tomorrow. Peacock and Williamson.